please? Okay, thanks a lot. And we'll be able to share this recording with anyone. We're also going to host it on our Jubilee School um, site that's part of our Debt Collective's website. So I was just doing a quick introduction to the way around translation and so on and so forth can slow time
Happening
down in a way that can be really
here in the
helpful in
US
moments
with
like this.
education, what's going on with Trump.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay. We hope that tonight provides an opportunity to practice a type of transformative pause that opens up feeling and thought. And translation and interpretation have a way of making us slow down. So I ask that as we hear from our speakers and then our translators, that we reflect on the value of getting a few more seconds to process thoughts and feelings alone and in community. To be sure, there's plenty of things about the contemporary United States university that we don't want to defend. High tuition, student debt, exploitative labor practices, and violent attacks against students and faculty protesting genocide in Palestine. And yet, we also know that we need public spaces to gather, to teach, and learn, to imagine the world otherwise. The call to defend the university is a call to take, remake, and liberate the university. And we hope that you take back lessons learned in this teaching to your own local struggles. And we offer here, I'm going to offer in the beginning, 3 different places that you can plug into national movements and actions. So the first way to plug in if you're interested is with the organization called Higher Education Labor United. And I'll put the link in the chat. Higher Education Labor United is since 2021 been building a wall-to-wall higher education labor movement that's coast to coast. So I put the chat in the link there. You can read more about Higher Education Labor United. The second way to plug in is through on April 17th, there's a National Day of Action to Defend Higher Education being organized by the Coalition for Action in Higher Education. And to date, we have over 225 organizations that have signed on to sponsor this day of action. So please consider joining us for that work. And I'll put in the chat the link there. And finally, there's the day of action. And finally, Debt Collective, who organizes this event, and there's many Debt Collective members on this call, the nation's first debtors union, is currently organizing the 100 Days to Build Debtor Power campaign. And I'm going to put the link in the chat where you can sign up for various events and meetings around that. But that's ongoing, and there's a series of teach-ins, skill shares, etc., where we are trying to capitalize on certain urgency and momentum right now to build debtor power. Because we know that Trump's policies are going to drive all of us into deeper debt. We got to be there to organize that anger and suffering. So universities in the United States are under conservative and neoliberal attack. The Trump administration has promised to intensify the assault on higher education and is doing so as we speak. They've openly declared their desire to take over and remake higher education to advance their ideological ambitions. They recognize, as we do, that the university, that education is a key terrain of struggle that shapes hearts and minds, that can open up or close down possibilities for imagining and constructing more just and fulfilling ways of being in the world. And in this Jubilee School session, we're going to hear from leading Argentine and Brazilian scholar activists that have fought to defend their public universities from Milei in Argentina and Bolsonaro regimes in Brazil. And they're going to share lessons on how to defend higher ed against fascist and authoritarian attacks. Johnny Bajos, who I'll introduce in a second. Johnny, you can raise your hand up there. And Lucy Caballero are going to respond to 2 prompts. The first prompt is Briefly describe the attacks against public universities in Brazil and Argentina during the Bolsonaro and Milei regimes. So we'll hear from responses from each to that question or prompt, and then we'll ask another prompt. Can you please describe for us the forms of resistance against these attacks? What were the strategies? What were the tactics developed? What were some of the victories and what were some of the defeats? So we'll get responses from those on those two prompts, and then after that, we'll have time for question and answer from the audience. Brief introductions. Jani Barros is a professor at the Department of Social Sciences and Education, Faculty of Education at UERJ, the State University of Rio de Janeiro. Her research and teaching focuses on education, social movement, and social struggles, understanding education as an instrument and catalyst for new societal projects. She's author of the book Education and Class Struggle, The Experience of Education in the Paris Commune. Eu quero ler isso, Jani, nunca li. Her most recent collective research project is titled Anti-Racist Struggle in Education, Strategic Perspectives in New Corporate Projects. Lucy Caballero is an internationally renowned feminist activist. She has a PhD in social sciences and is a sociologist from the University of Buenos Aires, professor at the National University of Tres de Febrero and the National University of Avellaneda. I think I said that right. Her research focuses on debt, gender, and digital finance. She is co-author with Veronica Gago of the books A Feminist Reading of Debt and Who Owes Who, Quien Le Debe Quien, and most recently, Home as Laboratory, Finance, Housing, and Feminist Struggle. So a warm welcome to our guests. Thank you everyone for being here. Jani, vamos começar contigo, tudo bem? Então, na primeira pergunta, vou fazer em inglês e Lívia, se você pode traduzir. So the first prompt again for Jani, who will respond first. Briefly describe the attacks against public universities in Brazil during the Bolsonaro regime. Obrigado, Jani.
Jane, então assim, você vai fazer a primeira pergunta, Lívia, por gentileza, traduza a pergunta para Jane. Rapidamente, descreva como foi a resistência dos ataques durante a administração do Bolsonaro no Brasil.
Sobre os ataques, resistência depois, né?
Resistance after the attacks, does that make
Sí,
sense?
exacto. Primero os ataques e depois resistência, sim.
Exatamente, primeiro os ataques, depois as resistências.
Ok. Boa noite. Primeiro agradecer o convite para essa importante conversa, discussão, no momento tão difícil para os camaradas e, enfim, de toda a América, mas sobretudo para os Estados Unidos, né?
So first of all, I would like to say thank you for the invitation, especially on this like rough time for our partners, like our friends and everybody in the whole world, especially in the United States at this moment right now.
Primeiro, acho que é importante, rapidamente, caracterizar esse governo, o governo do Bolsonaro. O governo Bolsonaro é um governo de extrema-direita,
So
que
first
tem
of all, I think it's very important to explain the characterization of the Bolsonaro government. Okay, so Bolsonaro government is like a far-right government.
é um governo de extrema-direita composto por elementos fascistoides, por fascistas milicianos, mas também por setores de banqueiros, financistas e fundamentalistas religiosos.
All right. So first of all, those elements who, as the government is composed, is from fascists, militianists, and sectors of bankers and banqueiros e
Financistas.
and people that finance the whole government.
E uma primeira medida do governo Bolsonaro, o primeiro recado para a educação, foi uma política de bloqueio, de contingenciamento de 20% do orçamento do Ministério da Educação e 44% do Ministério de Ciência e Tecnologia.
Right.
Ambos
So the first measure on his administration that he had, like his first message that he sent it to people was the block of 20% of the budget, the education budget, from the people, and also 44% of from the science and ciência
tecnologia.
and technology.
Ou seja, isso só na educação, no Ministério da Educação, significou um bloqueio de 113 bilhões.
So that means that only on the education sector, that means that was a blockage of like 113% millions on this process.
Então, a primeira ação desse governo, a primeira é justamente bloquear, contingenciar, chantagear com políticas de austeridade na universidade pública e, na verdade, garantir o controle a partir disso, né? Uma precarização da própria universidade.
Right. So the first action on this government was to block those resources and to harass people with politics that will block them from public access and from there, like get the control of the whole politics from those actions.
A extrema-direita, o governo de extrema-direita no Brasil, no país de capitalismo dependente, tem como tarefa o agravamento das políticas neoliberais.
Yeah. So the politics from the far right in Brazil, they have as an object from having like dependent capitalism like politics, so they can control the whole politics liberalistics.
Isso. Então, como consequência, a intenção do governo Bolsonaro é a privatização, a mercantilização da universidade pública.
So then, for the consequences of this actions that Bolsonaro was having on his government was the privatization and of the public budget and the universities in Brazil.
Isso foi combinado com uma política de negação da ciência.
So that was agreed with the negationalist politics from the science aspect.
Uma construção narrativa de que a universidade pública era um espaço de vagabundos, drogados, comunistas, doutrinadores.
And the narrative built on top of like a conversation that the public institutions, public universities was a place of people that was unoccupied people, drug addicts, and people that did not work, like people that wasn't appealed to the society.
E é importante recordar o que Jason escreveu, que a universidade no Brasil, existe universidade pública no Brasil, fruto de muitas lutas, né? Fruto de processos de lutas muito intensos e importantes.
Yeah, it's very important to emphasize what Jason just mentioned, that the construction of the public universities in Brazil, that there are existing right now, it's result of a lot of fight that was done through this process.
Somado a isso, vem um ataque. Bolsonaro organizou um ataque muito forte à autonomia universitária.
So with that, Bolsonaro, he articulated a way to go against the autonomy from the politics coming from the universities.
Isso significou nomear reitores, interventores na universidade que não foram eleitos democraticamente pela comunidade universitária.
That's a result of um, people being chosen to take roles in universities, like as a higher um, higher thing in the university, that they weren't chose by democratically purposes to take those roles. It was just like arbitrary, like choosing to take those places on the universities.
Algo que aconteceu na época da ditadura militar no Brasil.
So something that was happening and the times that was the we call ditadura, the military dictatorship in Brazil. So
somado a isso, professores, estudantes que estudavam e trabalhavam com temas sobre movimentos sociais ou temas enfim, nesse campo, foram perseguidos, sofreram processos administrativos, censurados.
yeah, so with that, those people that were involved with those studies, like teachers, professors, researchers, and people that were like into social topics, they were being retaliated because of this situation that was happening at that moment.
E acho importante precisar essa universidade que o Bolsonaro ataca. Que universidade é essa atacada durante o governo Bolsonaro?
And I think that's very important to emphasize, like, what is this university that Bolsonaro is like attacking? Where are those people that he's attacking during his government?
Uma universidade que depois de 10 anos de políticas de ações afirmativas, conquistou um corpo de estudantes significativamente negros e negras. Ou seja, as universidades públicas atacadas pelo Bolsonaro é uma universidade que tem mais de 52% de estudantes não brancos.
And those universities that we're talking about, that they're universities that they have politics that throughout these times they have like a body of like the structure made of 52% of Black people. So it's important to emphasize that that's very direct to those people itself, the 52% of like non-white people instead of other reasons.
E nessa direção, é importante precisar que um governo de extrema-direita absurdamente neoliberal, ele é profundamente racista. Uma vez que esse tipo de política de cortes draconianos afetam uma parcela da população que começa a entrar na universidade depois de muitas lutas conquistadas pelas ações afirmativas.
So I think it's very important to emphasize that those politics, it's very direct to those people that never ever had the opportunity to access higher education. So this actions is totally neo, desculpa, fala para mim, desculpa,
Neoliberal.
perdi. Neoliberal
Sei.
that affects like those people that never ever had access to the university and they're just having right now. So it's a very racial cause.
Isso. Então, em síntese, porque eu acho que eu já passei o tempo, mas em síntese, os ataques do governo Bolsonaro à universidade pública foram ataques fundamentalmente de cortes, de ataque, de destruição dessa dimensão pública da universidade.
Yeah, so like to synthesize what happened, so the attacks that happened during the Bolsonaro government was totally to cut the budget from those public universities, totally to affect those minority of the population that were assessing the university at the time, that are assessing right now.
Combinado com uma campanha ideológica através das fake news de negação da ciência, negação do conhecimento científico.
Combined with like the negationism of like the science and everything and the science that's happening right now, or the denying what the science that's happening right now.
Resultando na perseguição, no controle e na censura de setores mais ativos, mais progressistas e mais combativos da universidade.
With the results of like the with the no right of speech from the universities and like the censor of everything that's happening in university right now.
Muito obrigado, Johnny. Muito obrigado, Olivia. Thank you so much, both of you, and really appreciate the pacing and the translation work. Bueno, ahora tenemos Lucy Caballero de Argentina con Yerko haciendo interpretación. Gracias, Lucy. Gracias, Yerko.
Bueno, buenas noches acá, son las noches por acá. Muchas gracias por la invitación. Yo quería comenzar haciendo una pequeña caracterización también del gobierno de Javier Milei, que es, nosotras estamos empezando, bueno, además de ser un gobierno de ultraderecha, para nosotras es muy importante caracterizarlo como un tipo de fascismo, no deteniéndonos tanto en la discusión académica sobre si es o no un fascismo parecido al de Europa, pero sí por el tipo de política de persecución y exterminio que está haciendo sobre determinadas poblaciones. Y lo caracterizamos también como un gobierno que es profundamente colonial, ¿no? Un fascismo colonial que intensifica y exacerba las relaciones coloniales de Argentina con, sobre todo con el imperio de Estados Unidos.
Well, good evening. It's nighttime here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I wanted to start doing a small characterization about Milei's government, which also, other than being from the far right, for us, women, it is very important to define it as a way of, or a type of government that is fascist. Not really focusing so much in the academic discussion about whether or not this fascism is like Europe's, but we do define it as such because of the type of persecution and extermination that the government is doing on certain parts of the population. and we characterize it as a government that is profoundly colonial, in fascism, which also aims to have even more relations with colonial countries, for example, coming from Argentina to the US.
Entonces, es importante también decir que es un gobierno ligado a grandes fondos de inversión, a corporaciones extractivistas y también a corporaciones que están ligadas justamente al agronegocio. En ese sentido, estamos asistiendo hace 8 meses a lo que llamamos un shock neoliberal, caracterizado como una forma de gobernabilidad sustentada en la velocidad, en la creación de caos y en la destrucción, en la capacidad de destrucción que de alguna manera hace difícil reaccionar a tiempo en tanto la velocidad del ajuste y de la destrucción del propio Estado, sobre todo del Estado, de las instituciones estatales dedicadas a financiar la reproducción social, es de una velocidad y de una intensidad que no habíamos conocido.
Lucy, dijiste extractivistas, ¿no?
Sí, extractivistas.
Okay, so it is important to say that this is also a government that is tied to very large funds, investment funds, to extractivist corporations. And also these funds are linked to corporations that are in the agricultural business. So in that sense, we've been going for 8 months now to what we've been going through for 8 months to what we call a neoliberal shock, which is characterized as a government form which is based on the speed and the creation of chaos and in destruction, in the capacity of destruction, which makes it difficult to react on time in regards to the speed of adjustment and in the destruction of the state, even above all about the state of state institutions that are financed for social reproduction with an intensity never seen before.
En ese marco quisiera contarles que Milei eliminó el Ministerio de Educación y eliminó el Ministerio de Ciencia y Tecnología. Hay que enmarcar el ataque a la universidad pública no solamente como parte de las políticas de ajuste estructural clásicas exigidas por el Fondo Monetario Internacional, sino también como parte de esta guerra cultural que caracteriza a estas ultraderechas. Desde nuestro punto de vista, esa guerra cultural no es más que, digamos, un instrumento para generar disciplinamiento que permite justamente la posibilidad de aplicar el ajuste económico. Es decir, no hay forma de pensar el modelo económico de ajuste sin estas guerras culturales, lo que ellos le llaman guerras culturales. ¿Cómo entra la universidad en estas dos fases o esta doble cara de la política de Milei? Bueno, por un lado, se empieza a generar una narrativa en la cual la universidad primero es un gasto innecesario, tratando de instalar la idea de que los hijos de la clase trabajadora no van a la universidad pública.
What's more, I'd like to tell you that President Milei, he abolished or eliminated the Ministry of Education and the one about science and economy. So we have to frame this attack that happened to the public universities, not just as part of the adjustment politics of structural adjustment that is required by the International Monetary Fund, but also because of the intercultural war that we are having due to the far right. The cultural war is nothing more than an instrument to generate some sort of discipline that permits the possibility of generating the economical adjustment. There is no way of thinking about this adjustment without these cultural wars. So how does the university in these two phases, or in these two phases of Milei's politics enter? On one side, one narrative is started to get generated in which university is an unnecessary cost. So it is trying to install or to get through the idea that the children of the working class don't go to public universities.
Entonces, tratando de exacerbar un enfrentamiento al interior de la clase trabajadora, cuando si algo caracteriza a las universidades argentinas es que son profundamente populares, porque hay universidades en distintos barrios del conurbano, no solamente están concentradas en las grandes capitales. Entonces, ese es el primer discurso. El segundo discurso es identificar a la universidad como parte de el lugar donde se imparten conocimientos de marxismo y de ideología de género. Esa fue la doble narrativa que empezó con el desprestigio de las universidades. Esto también hay que marcarlo en una estrategia de las ultraderechas de disputa por quienes producen conocimiento. En general, ellos tratan de que la población acceda y se informe a través de las redes sociales, de las grandes plataformas, y al mismo tiempo desautorizar el conocimiento producido en instituciones públicas.
So they try to exacerbate some sort of fight in the working class. If there's something that characterizes Argentinian universities, is that they are profoundly popular, because there are universities in different neighborhoods in cities, not just in the big capital cities. And that is the first discourse. The second one is to identify the university as part of the place where knowledge of Marxism and gender ideology are taught. That was the double narrative that started trying to make universities not as legit. We also have to frame this as a strategy from the far right, as a dispute from who produces knowledge. They try to make people to access and to get informed through social media, while at the same time they try to discredit the knowledge that is produced in public institutions.
Una vez dicho este marco general, concretamente el gobierno ha reducido el 30% del presupuesto universitario, por supuesto, con el festejo del Fondo Monetario Internacional, que por primera vez está viendo un alumno que puede implementar un ajuste en una velocidad inédita y someter a los peores sacrificios a su población. Además, el salario docente cayó alrededor del 40% en un año, lo que está produciendo el éxodo masivo de profesores universitarios al extranjero o una migración de los profesores de la universidad pública a las universidades privadas. En cuanto a la ciencia y la tecnología, nosotros contamos con un Instituto Nacional de Ciencia y Técnica en el que, bueno, yo trabajo hasta previo aviso, que está siendo desmantelado, ¿no? La ciencia producida en Argentina se está desmantelando. Esto va en paralelo a la destrucción de la universidad pública. Y entonces creo que hay una caída impresionante del presupuesto, de los salarios docentes, y creo que están más interesados en destruir el salario docente que incluso en bajar los gastos de infraestructura. Lo que ellos quieren es justamente atacar principalmente el capital humano, ¿no? A ellos le llaman capital humano, para que migre a las universidades privadas, e incluso para que se pueda consolidar un sistema de endeudamiento, que es algo que en Argentina no existe. Con la universidad pública no es necesario tomar deuda para estudiar.
One second. All right. So once we frame it like this, the government has reduced 30% of universities' budget, which of course was celebrated on the International Monetary Fund, that for the first time is seeing one student that can implement some sort of adjustment at a very fast pace while sacrificing the poorest in the population. Furthermore, the salary of these teachers or these professors went down 40% in 1 year, which produced a massive migration of professors to outside of the country or from public universities to private universities. In regards to science and technology, we count with the National Institute of Science and Technology in the one I work so far, which right now is being dismantled. The science that is produced in Argentina is being dismantled. This also goes in parallel to the destruction of public universities. And so I think there is a very big fall in the budget for professor salaries. And I think that they are more interested in that, in destroying professor salaries, more than reducing infrastructure costs. So what they want to do is attack, as they say, human capital, so that this human capital can migrate to private universities, or even so that it can be consolidated in a debt system, which is something that doesn't exist in Argentina. Since they have public universities, you don't need to go into debt in order to study.
Ok, creo que dejamos acá.
Okay, I think that's it.
Perfecto.
now.
Gracias, Lucy. Gracias, Yerko. Y now we will go to the second part, which is what is to be done, what has been done, resistance and strategy. Então, Johnny, agora vamos começar contigo com a segunda pergunta. Livia pode traduzir. I will read it in English first. So the second part that we're now going to talk about is the following prompt. Johnny and Lucy, can you please describe for us the forms of resistance against the attacks that you just described? What were the strategies, tactics developed? Who was involved? What were some of the victories and what were some of the defeats? Johnny, vamos começar contigo, por favor.
Jane, nós vamos começar com você. E a segunda pergunta é com relação a quais que são as estratégias, as táticas e as formas desenvolvidas para rebater essas situações que aconteceram, que estão acontecendo ou que aconteceram durante esse processo.
Ok. Acho que para localizar o debate da resistência, é importante precisar que apenas 12% dos jovens cursam hoje as universidades públicas. A grande maioria, 88%, estão nas universidades privadas no Brasil.
So to emphasize and to start this conversation, it's important to emphasize that only 12% of the youth right now are occupying the public universities. Like 88% of the other the rest of the youth, they are in public universities.
Ou seja, a universidade pública, ela na verdade ela é fruto de uma luta, de uma defesa de um projeto de universidade. Então, é importante precisar que 11% ainda está muito longe do que a gente gostaria, mas a universidade pública é resultado dessas lutas e ela representa uma disputa em torno de um projeto de universidade.
Yeah, it's important to emphasize that this 11 or 12% of the youth that are in the public universities right now, they represent a fight and a project of having them in the public universities. So this is not what it's ideal right now.
Então, talvez um dos grandes eventos, a primeira reação contrária ao governo do Bolsonaro em 2019 foi um ato nacional em defesa da educação pública.
Yeah, so maybe the event that's very important to emphasize after what happened of a pause like the Bolsonaro government in 2015 is the national event for public education.
Um ato nacional massivo e robusto, organizado nos 21 estados. Na capital federal, o país foi tomado por ações de ruas e manifestações em defesa da educação pública contra os cortes na educação e na ciência e tecnologia.
Yeah, so it was a national act, massive and very important with 21 states of like Brazil that was against of those stuff that was happening in the public universities.
Esse ato foi um ato que revelou a importância e a mobilização dos sindicatos e associações de professores, dos coletivos de juventude, do movimento estudantil e de outros movimentos que entendiam que a defesa da
So
universidade.
this is important to emphasize that this act reveal the importance of the mobilization of the unions, the teachers unions, the profession unions to go against of everything that was happening at the moment.
Esse evento nos provoca e mostra talvez uma das grandes pistas e o caminho para construir a luta contra os governos de extrema-direita.
So this event provokes and show maybe one of the biggest paths for us to go against the government of the far right at the time.
Esse movimento de pressão popular e de organização coletiva que se inicia em 2019, ele foi barrado também por conta do maior evento da história de crise que foi a pandemia que a gente vivenciou a partir do início do ano de 2020.
Yeah, so this movement and this popular pressure that happened through the organization that happened at the moment, it's actually compared to the COVID that happened during the pandemic with the collective work that we did.
E essa tática de pressão coletiva, ela também, durante a pandemia, ela também teve efeitos. Então,
So this practice of collective pressure also had the effect exactly as it had during the COVID.
A negação da ciência, a destruição da universidade como espaço de produção desse conhecimento, encontrou na pandemia uma resposta concreta de que foi a ciência, e era a ciência produzida por essas universidades que poderiam garantir e salvar vidas.
So, like, the negationism of the science during the pandemic proved to us that during this moment, it was the science through and with the collective power that had an uh, effect, power and change during this time in Brazil.
Foram as universidades públicas e os institutos, como a Fiocruz, que produziram vacina, que mapearam o DNA, né? Mapearam o vírus, né? Da Covid, fizeram um mapeamento genético. Então, foram as universidades públicas que, enfim, que tiveram um papel central e relevante no combate à pandemia.
So it was the public universities that had like a centered and a big role play during the pandemic that showed people that through them and through their actions, they were the people that were resulting in the solutions for what we were needing at the time.
Então, as redes sociais serviram como um espaço de mobilização, de organização desses setores progressistas e dos setores que defendem a universidade pública, defendendo a ciência e construindo uma outra narrativa em relação ao discurso genocida do governo Bolsonaro.
So, through the social media and the mobilization of the science and the public universities, they built a different outcome against the genocide that was happening during the Bolsonaro government.
Então, essa estratégia de organização, ela se deu antes da pandemia, através das ações nas ruas, mas durante a pandemia também com uma forma dentro e fora da universidade, na rua ou nas redes sociais, como um espaço de contrapor e de organizar a resistência ao governo de extrema-direita.
All right, so those organization strategies before and after the pandemic was actually what was the main core in order for us to establish what was happening during and after those critical situations that we're living.
E quando os grandes atos foram retomados em 2020 ainda, em 2021, durante a pandemia, foram os setores da educação, da saúde e os trabalhadores de aplicativo mais precarizados que assumiram a linha de frente dessas lutas massivas, das marchas.
So the biggest acts during the 2020, 2021, during the pandemic, throughout like the education, the people that were working like on the front line, they were facing all this disruptive situation that showed that those acts was very important for us at the time.
Acho que um exemplo de como, pensando vou voltar, vou reformular. Um exemplo desse período pandêmico foi quando o governo Bolsonaro, o ministro da Educação e da Tecnologia, cortam cerca de 200 mil bolsas de pesquisadores no Brasil, sem avisar antes, no meio do jogo.
So let me think about it. Let me just like redo my thoughts and explain to you in a better way. So an example of what happened during the pandemic, like during the Bolsonaro government, uh, during that time, the technology minister, they cut 2,000 million rias from like the budget that they had for them to work with.
Esse grupo começa a se organizar nas redes sociais, começam a denunciar essa situação. Isso chega na grande imprensa nacional e pressiona o governo a recuar e a retomar o pagamento dessas bolsas.
Yeah, so those groups, they organize themselves and those news start going to the press. And then people start to get to know what was going on. And then the government felt pressed about what was happening. And then they revealed their decisions through the actions that they had.
Uma ação coordenada, organizada, que teve um bom resultado no final do processo.
It was a coordinated action that they thought about it and they organized, and it had a positive result after that.
E, por fim, eu acho que queria dar um exemplo recente, regional, de uma experiência com o governo de extrema-direita atacando a universidade pública.
Right. And then at the end, like just to finalize, I want to give you an example of like a far-right government pressuring a local institution to do something that they want them to do.
Assim como na Argentina, como Lúcia apontou, o discurso de que a universidade pública não é para a classe trabalhadora também é um discurso propagado e defendido pela extrema-direita no Brasil, em todos os níveis.
So like Lucy mentioned previously, the speech about like the public universities not being a place for like a working class for people to stay is the same speech that we have here in Brazil.
Mas esse é um discurso que não se comprova na prática.
But this is a speech that it's not truth, practically speaking.
A UERJ, a Universidade Estadual do Rio de Janeiro, é um exemplo disso.
Like the UERJ, the Rio de Janeiro University, is an example of this.
No Rio de Janeiro, nós temos um governo do Castro, também de extrema-direita, fascista.
Yeah, so in Rio de Janeiro, we also have a fascist government, also from far right, from Castro.
E ele fez a mesma receita, o mesmo formato que o Bolsonaro fez no governo federal. Contingenciou e bloqueou parte significante do orçamento da universidade.
Yeah, and he did the same recipe. He did the same thing that Bolsonaro did in the beginning. He blocked part of the resources, financial resources that they had in order to keep doing whatever he thought that he had to do.
E chantageou ao mesmo tempo, fazendo com que a direção da universidade e a reitoria cortasse bolsa dos estudantes, bolsas estudantis, para que ele pudesse liberar o restante dos recursos e cortes, austeridade, para poder liberar o restante dos recursos.
So, and then he used from retaliations to force them to do whatever he wanted to do. Like, oh, I'm not going to give you whatever you're supposed to receive if you don't comply to what I want you to comply. So they blocked part of the resources in order for them to comply to the demands that they were doing.
A universidade aceitou a chantagem e cortou as bolsas dos estudantes.
So the university accepted their retaliation, their pressure, and cut it like parts of like the benefits that like financial benefits that the students had,
Os estudantes
like
se organizaram,
scholarship.
os estudantes se organizaram e garantiram uma greve estudantil massiva, robusta e que foi tão forte que garantiu o retorno dessas bolsas.
So the students, they organized themselves and they organized like they organized a movement that they will pressure the people in order for them to get back the benefits and the resources they were entitled to have.
Ou seja, o caminho de negociar com a extrema-direita é o pior caminho.
So therefore, the pathway to negotiate with the far right is a very difficult way to do.
Foi a luta coletiva, foi a organização desses estudantes que garantiram as bolsas, mostrando de novo que essa é a melhor forma de enfrentar um governo de extrema-direita fascista. Organização popular e resistência coletiva.
So therefore, they showed us that the way of organization, pressure, and popular pressure is the best way in order to get what we need back from this fashions way of government,
Por fim,
organizing and doing what we have to do.
por fim, como elemento síntese das estratégias, a melhor forma e as possibilidades que vivenciamos de enfrentamento dessas experiências de extrema-direita é a partir das organizações coletivas dentro e fora da universidade e no sentido de possibilitar uma resposta massiva e ofensiva contra esses governos fascistas de extrema-direita, enfim.
All right. So at the end, the element, just to synthesize what we think it's the best strategy, is a massive collective organization inside and outside of the universities in order for us to have a response for what's happening and get done what we need to get done from what we're requesting on our pad.
É isso.
That's it.
Maravilhoso. Obrigado, Johnny. Obrigado, Olivia. Thank you for these inspiring words. And just to reemphasize, negotiation didn't fucking work, but struggle did, both within the university and outside the university, in bringing those groups together. Thank you. Lucy, por favor.
Bien. Bueno, quisiera comenzar diciendo cuáles son los principales desafíos que nos estamos encontrando para movilizar. En primer lugar, tiene que ver con la guerra económica que se está aplicando sobre la población, que pone en crisis incluso la posibilidad de supervivencia de una parte grande de la población, lo cual hace que el tiempo para la organización política esté disputado. Y en segundo lugar, el contexto represivo. El gobierno ha involucrado fuerzas de seguridad, ha militarizado algunas manifestaciones. Entonces, esos son dos desafíos importantes que nos encontramos a la hora de pensar estrategias de resistencia. El tercero es más de orden afectivo y de ánimo, ¿no? El gobierno tiene una política muy importante de intentar hacernos creer que nuestras movilizaciones son impotentes. Y por eso, después de movilizaciones masivas, en general, tiende a aplicar alguna medida que nos castiga o que hace incluso más dura aquello que, por lo que estábamos saliendo a demandar.
All right, I would like to begin mentioning which are the main challenges that we are facing when we are trying to mobilize ourselves. The first one has to do with the economical war against the population that is putting in crisis even the survival of a big part of population, which makes having time or making time for political organization or organizing very difficult. In second place, there's also the repressive context. So the government has involved security forces, and they have even militarized a few public demonstrations. These are two very important challenges that we find ourselves with when we think about strategies with regards to resistance. The third one has more to do with the mood. So the government has a very important policy of trying to make us see that our demonstrations don't work or makes us worse. For example, after demonstrations, the president or the government does certain measures that in some way punishes us, or it makes harder what we were fighting for.
Bien, a pesar de todas esas dificultades, durante este año hemos combinado distintas estrategias. La primera de ellas es la producción de movilizaciones masivas. Quiero mostrar, no sé si voy a poder mostrar una de las fotos de lo que fueron las movilizaciones de la universidad, que han convocado más de 1 millón de personas con una estrategia muy clara que fue hacer que la gente cuente en primera persona cómo la universidad pública los había atravesado en sus vidas. Tanto en una clave familiar, por ejemplo, vinculando la universidad al ascenso social. En muchas familias en Argentina las generaciones de universitarios significan una estrategia de ascenso social en las clases populares. Hubo muchas narraciones en primera persona sobre lo que implica ese pasaje por la universidad. Y eso convocó mucha gente, incluso votantes de la ultraderecha. Fue una de las pocas movilizaciones que cruzó, digamos, el cerco, ¿no? Que pudo convocar personas que incluso no están politizadas o están afectadas más con un discurso de derecha. La segunda estrategia fue la realización de asambleas en todas las universidades que incluyeron tomas, es decir, que los estudiantes toman la facultad y duermen adentro de la facultad y hacen actividades de discusión política. Hubo 2 marchas masivas durante el año pasado, de más de 1 millón de personas.
So even though we've had all those difficulties, we've found a way to combine different strategies. And this is what we did the past year. So the first strategy was making massive demonstrations. I want to show one of the pictures which Lucy showed while she was speaking, which are one of the pictures of how these demonstrations were. These demonstrations were about the universities, and they gathered over 1 million people, which was, this demonstration had a very clear strategy, which was making people tell in the first person how public university has affected them in their lives. This can mean in a familiar or in a family way. For example, they linked the university, the public university, with social or I guess economic upgrading for many families in Argentina. The generations of people from the university means that they can upgrade their social status, and this is important for the popular classes. There were also many narration in the first person of people of what going through public university means, which brought many people together, even people from the far right. And this was one of the few demonstrations that could in some way link us together. It could make people that maybe are not into politics or that are more from the right to come to this demonstration. The second strategy was to make assemblies in all the universities that were taken by force. So these universities were taken by students or by people. They would sleep inside this university, and they would also make various talks inside of it. There were 2 massive demonstrations last year, which had more than 1 million people.
En segundo lugar, hubo una estrategia muy interesante de parte de los estudiantes de artes que se convocaron en distintas estaciones de trenes para hacer performance artísticas y denunciar la situación de la universidad pública. También creo que una estrategia fundamental fue la búsqueda de transversalidad política a través de involucrar a sindicatos, a movimientos de derechos humanos y por supuesto al movimiento feminista que ha también desarrollado una estrategia capilar en las universidades, eh, poniendo en discusión la importancia de los contenidos de género en la educación pública y se han hecho actividades feministas en defensa de la universidad pública.
In the second place, there was a very interesting strategy from art students. These students got together in different train stations to do some artistic performances in order to show how public universities were acting. I also think one important strategy was having political transversality. So we involved unions, also human rights movement organizations, and of course, feminist movement organizations, which also developed a great strategy in the universities, which was to put onto the table the discussion of the importance about gender content in public education. We've also some feminist activities have been done that defend public universities.
Y para finalizar, quiero hacer un balance. Lamentablemente, en Argentina, la radicalidad del gobierno es tan importante con respecto a cumplir con los pagos de la deuda externa y reducir el déficit fiscal, al mismo tiempo que se le bajan impuestos a los ricos, no ha permitido que el presupuesto universitario se aumentara. Se ha vetado una ley que había sido votada en en las dos cámaras y sin embargo el gobierno la vetó, una ley que ampliaba el presupuesto universitario. Esa fue una gran derrota, sin embargo, se consiguió un pequeño aumento para gastos de infraestructura y una repolitización de una generación nueva. Es decir, el derecho a la universidad pública estaba naturalizado en la Argentina y también había cierta despolitización en la juventud con respecto a ese derecho. Y luego de las masivas manifestaciones, las tomas y las actividades, podríamos decir que una generación nueva se incorporó a los legados de lucha política inspirados en generaciones anteriores y que eso además produce una disputa cuerpo a cuerpo con la ultraderecha que tiene un foco muy importante en las juventudes. Aquí terminó.
Okay, and to finish, I would like to make some sort of balance. So sadly, in Argentina, the government is so radical that it is important for them to pay external debt and to reduce the fiscal deficit at the same time that taxes to the rich are down or are brought down. This has not allowed to university budget to increase. Also, a law was vetoed, which was voted for in two cameras, in two political chambers. However, the government rejected it, which was a law that would make the university budget bigger. It was a big defeat. However, we got a small victory in a small rise for infrastructural budget and repolarization of a new generation, which means, so in Argentina, the right to public university was naturalized and the youth didn't really know or have it so naturalized. However, with these big demonstrations, with this taking universities and with all the activities that were made, we could say that a new generation was formed, which was inspired in the previous generations, which generates some sort of close combat in the youth against the far right.
Muchas gracias, Lucy. Muchas gracias, Yerko. Thank you so much to both of you. This has been extremely informative, and I really just cannot express enough gratitude. There's been some questions that have come through in the chat that a lot of them have been addressed. But before we do get to some questions that have been asked, thank you, Lindsay, for recording. I just want to note one thing that I think is worth highlighting, that both in Brazil and Argentina, you have universally accessible public higher education, and that was fought for. Granted, there are different ways in which different students get admitted to those university systems, but it's important to note that the universities are free. It's also important to note, and there's a wonderful book by Connor Thomas Reed about this, New York Liberation School, that we had times in the United States where universities were either very, very cheap and or free, like in CUNY, and that those spaces were created and defended in a way that perhaps it makes it more difficult to defend the university today, which, as we know, drives students into debt and other ugly aspects. The other thing, since this is a debt collective call, I just want to say one thing that Lucy was emphasizing around debt, where debt is driving a lot of the austerity in both Argentina and Brazil. And it's leading to a lot of the cuts. It's also in the United States, as we know, and some people were noting this in the chat, individual student debt is one of the things that makes it so hard for students to fight for a university. They don't have time, they're working all the time. There's implications if they get in trouble and have a record, how are they going to pay that debt, etc. So I think one of the big takeaways for me in this as well is that we have to fight for universal debt cancellation as we fight for a new university. And by fighting for universal debt cancellation, we make our fight for the university stronger. So I will ask, let me see. Lindsay put a question in the chat that now I lost. Here we go. Okay. Bueno, Lucy y Johnny, tengo una pregunta de Troy. Que eu Yerko, do you want to try and translate the question? I don't know if you see here. I can.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Is it far
Here, no,
above?
I can actually. I can.
Can you repost it?
Yeah, let me. Sure, if it allows me to do this. 1 second, everyone.
I can just do it, Jason. I'll
Oh,
drop.
okay, please, yeah, go for it.
It's Troy's question from earlier in this call. And I'm dropping it to everyone in the chat again. It's do you have advice for those of us who are privileged by citizenship, tenure, resources, etc.? Are there things you wish you had done early in your fascist regimes? I guess to prepare the sort of organizing project. And are there things that you'd advise those here to avoid, be attentive to? I'm dropping the chat again. And thanks, Troy, for posing that earlier.
Do you see Yerko?
Yes.
Okay. So
Okay,
this is for Johnny and Lucy.
sorry.
Go for it.
1 second. All right. So, entonces, Lucy, ¿tienes algún consejo para aquellos de nosotros que tenemos privilegio por ciudadanía, posición o recursos? ¿Hay cosas que desearían que se hubieran hecho antes en tus regímenes fascistas? ¿Hay cosas que aconsejarías que se evitaran?
Johnny, você entendeu? Ok, perfeito. Lucy e depois Johnny.
Eu vou falar para posso falar para a Jane, se a Jane quiser. Quer que eu fale?
Acho que
Repita,
Johnny
Jane.
entendeu, não?
Entendeu? Ok.
Sim. Valeu,
Então,
obrigado.
pronto.
Creo que hubo un momento de subestimación de lo que podía llegar a ser el gobierno y de cierta relajación en una parte de la militancia, pensando que iba a ser un gobierno neoliberal más. Y sin embargo, el ataque es muy duro y creo que es muy importante crear y nutrir la organización desde el inicio. Todos los espacios donde estamos participando tienen que crecer, tienen que reflexionar sobre formas de autodefensa, tienen que hacer esfuerzos de articulación política con otros sectores, con los sectores que van a ser los más atacados, porque eso es así. El fascismo no es un régimen que impacta a todos por igual, sino que empieza por los migrantes, por las poblaciones racializadas, por la población LGTBIQ+. Entonces es importante poner en evidencia que también hay una afectación particular y organizarse y tender puentes y tener muy presente formas de autodefensa. No podemos pensar que nuestras prácticas políticas van a ser exactamente iguales bajo un régimen con tendencias fascistas, ¿no? Y practicar el internacionalismo. Claramente, esta ultraderecha se apoya en redes internacionales. Milei, cada vez que siente su poder amenazado, se va del país a una cumbre reaccionaria y nosotros y nosotras tenemos que aprender de esa estrategia, que es tomar poder de nuestro internacionalismo para dar esos debates en nuestros países.
Sorry, I was muted. I think there was a moment where we underestimated what the government could be. And we also had some certain relaxation with political militancy. We thought that it was going to be another neoliberal government. However, the attack was very difficult. And I think it is very important to create and to nurture the ability to organize from the beginning. All the spaces where we are participating have to grow. They have to reflect about ways of self-defense. They have to make efforts of speaking about politics with other sectors, with the more vulnerable sectors, because this is how it is. Fascism is not a regime that impacts everybody equally. It starts with migrants, with vulnerable people, with LGBTQ plus, and we have to make it clear that there's a very particular sector of the population that gets affected. And so therefore we need to have ways of self-defense. We cannot think that our political practices are going to be the same under a fascist regime. We have to practice internationalism. So fascists have international links. Milei, for example, when he feels threatened, he starts to react. So we have to take back power of our internationalism in order to be able to debate.
Jane, você quer responder a pergunta também Você quer que lemos de novo?
Não, não precisa ler de novo. Mas tem outra pergunta para responder? É essa
Eu acho
mesma,
que
né?
seria legal responder isso de...
Ah,
Sim.
tudo bem. É, pensando nessa perspectiva dos conselhos, que eu gostaria de, primeiro, não subestimar um governo de extrema direita fascista.
Well, thinking about this perspective of advice, I would like to let you know that do not underestimate this fascist government right now.
Governo de extrema direita fascista, como Lúcia colocou muito bem, não é mais um governo neoliberal, ultra neoliberal.
Well, so this type of government that, like Lucy mentioned before, is not like a no neoliberalist government like she mentioned previously.
É um governo profundamente genocida.
It's a very genocide government.
E concordando com Lúcia, atinge alguns corpos de maneira muito mais brutal.
And agreeing with Lucy, that really affect some bodies in a very brutal way than the others.
Então, para além de não subestimar a extrema-direita, precisamos ter uma postura não sectária com os setores da nossa classe que ainda estão confusos, que ainda acreditam nesse discurso. A gente precisa estar aberto de maneira não sectária para discutir, para conversar, para, enfim, escutar setores nossos que ainda se veem envolvidos nesse discurso fundamentalista, cristão, conservador.
Yeah, and based on this advices, we have to be, we cannot be like very secondary in terms of like what's happening in the sectors. We have to be understanding in terms of what's happening with this type of governments, that it's very secundaristic and very conservatoristic, very related to religions, and yeah, so we need to be aware of that.
E acho que um terceiro elemento é investir na unidade de ação, na ação coletiva unitária, em todos os setores que se colocam contra o governo de de extrema-direita.
And a third element that I think is just to invest in the sector that it's of collective actions that goes against this government of far right.
E, por fim, eu acho que esse tipo de evento que troca experiências, que escuta outras experiências, que dialoga com outras realidades, também é muito importante numa coalizão, numa aliança internacional para combater uma expressão e uma ofensiva que também é internacional. Que
And
é
at the end, and then to finalize, I feel that's very important, this unit with the collective movements that are against those far rights, those events that we can speak and we can have this exchange of knowledges and of like anything that can help us goes towards this and attack and combat those situations that's coming against us.
Mas
Thank you
That's
so
it.
much, Johnny. Thank you so much, Livia. Muito obrigado, vocês. And we are at 9:30. I want to be very respectful of our presenters' time because it is 2 hours ahead of us in Argentina and Brazil. And also thank you all so much for being here and taking part in this activity, in the teaching and learning, the sharing of ideas. One of the things that was emphasized by Lucy and Johnny was the necessity to revitalize internationalism. The far right has international networks, and we need to build our own international networks. It is the only way that we are going to survive this mess. So once more, thank you, everyone. Please be on the lookout for further Debt Collective events. Really appreciate everybody. And hang in there, y'all. Like, we're just getting started, but there's many of us out there. And if we stick together, we're going to emerge out of this. So thank you. Be well.